James Gunn's new DCU is in full effect. It's already 2 movies in, we've had 2 shows, and we're about to have another series and another film later this year. But what if I told you that the DCU actually has earlier origins than, say, either Superman or Creature Commandos? And I'm not just talking about the DCEU or the carryovers from the DCEU to the DCU. No, it goes back further than even Man of Steel. In this series, the goal is to explain where the origins of the DCU started, how many projects outside of the DCU actually connect to it, and where the origins of the DC Multiverse actually began. And spoiler alert, it's with the 2 shows on the CW in Arrow and The Flash. Welcome back to the channel, everyone, where we love talking about movies and more. I'm your host, Mason Phillips, and I'm a big DC fan. I've always been since the early Adam West Batman days. I've always had a fascination with not just these characters, but how the universes are connected to one another, how each project is connected to the next. First got a taste of that in the old DC animated universe with shows like Batman the Animated Series, Superman the Animated Series, Justice League Unlimited, and a couple others. It was with that series that I had this fascination of how these projects are connected to one another. And then I was exposed to the larger DC Comics universe with the DC animated original films and the backstory of DC Comics, and then of course with the big franchise in the MCU and how that whole cinematic universe was structured, each project connected to the next. It was all leading towards and telling a much bigger story. DC has tried to do that at the films, of course, with the DCEU and now with the current DCU, but what if I told you that there's actually a lot more to this connected universe than just the DCEU or the DCU? In this series, I plan to show you how projects like Arrow and The Flash are connected to projects like Man of Steel or the recent Superman or Supergirl movie, how these projects are connected to shows like Smallville or even the obscure Birds of Prey series from the early 2000s. Yes, I'm talking about this multiverse of projects that have been created over the years and how they all connect to each other. Now, I'm going to structure this series much like James Gunn has done with his current DC universe. Right now, we're in Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters, so he's structuring this series like we're telling the story of a book. Right now, we're in Chapter 1 of this first book. Now, we don't know what the title of this first book is, but I think it would be very smart and quite fun to label them in the eras of the comics. Now, we know the golden age of comics existed in the 40s into the 50s. 50s is kind of where we transition into the silver age. We got the bronze age, and that's how I'm going to be breaking these eras of DC up. In the MCU, we have the sagas, the Infinity Saga and currently the Multiverse Saga. But with DC, I think it would be really fun to harken back to how the eras of comics used to be broken up, how they currently are broken up, and I think that would be quite fun. So in this series, I'm going to attempt to structure a series within the golden age of the DCU. And yes, I did say it starts before the DCEU, it starts before the DCU. I'm going to start this with the CW show Arrow. The first chapter of this first book of the golden age will simply be called Beginnings. This first chapter will only consist of one major property, and that is the Green Arrow himself in season 1 of Arrow. As we get further on and we dive into multiple chapters, we will add many more projects into these chapters as we go along. The first couple of chapters are going to remain pretty simple. We're going to kind of structure this around how each year of the Arrowverse was constructed. We will be bringing in other projects outside of the Arrowverse as well, but for this first chapter, it's just season 1 of Arrow. And one thing I wanted to explain was how the background of this universe actually leads to the multiverse. Now, you could say, okay, well, we got the reveal of that in The Flash. In season 2 of The Flash, of course, when we got characters like Zoom, we got the introduction of the multiverse of Earth 2 of Harrison Wells from that other Earth. That's kind of where it all goes, right? No, there's more to it than that. Outside of the multiverse, there was many timeline changes also created in this universe that informed and created this larger DC multiverse. What were the events that led to the creation of the multiverse? That's what we're really going to look at here before we even get into the events of Arrow season 1. Now, what did that original timeline look like before the Reverse Flash went back and killed Barry's mother, altering the timeline forever from that point? And the first big revelation I hope to excite you with here is that Arrow season 1 actually exists in the original timeline of the DC universe. With Arrow season 1, there are no timeline changes. The Flash has not made any alterations to the timeline. No other figures have made alterations to the timeline, and the multiverse itself doesn't even exist. There's only one Earth and one timeline, and the only time we really get a look at an insight into this timeline is Arrow season 1. The main reason I'm saying this is there are some inconsistencies as we get into year 2 and year 3, or chapter 2 and chapter 3, especially when the Flash and the Reverse Flash start making some changes to the timeline. And you can actually already notice those changes in Arrow season 2. So I think Arrow season 1 actually exists exists within the original timeline before anything was changed. And in this timeline, there's some changes to what we eventually see with season 2 of Arrow, with season 1 of The Flash, and season 3 of Arrow. One big change you'll notice before we get into the events of Arrow season 1 is Captain Singh. Notice the character of Captain Singh from The Flash season 1. The actor who played Captain Singh is actually first featured in Arrow season 1 as a Vertigo drug dealer. And so in the original timeline, he was a criminal, and then when the timeline was changed, when the Reverse Flash went back, killed Barry's mom, changed the timeline, there was actually a ripple effect that was created out of that. Not just what happened to Barry himself, but what happened to some other people within Starling City and Central City. There was a bit of a ripple effect. Not a major one, but enough to change the events or the lives of a few individuals. And Captain Singh would have been one of those. Not a police captain, but a criminal. And then in the new timeline, his life was changed. We don't know what that altering factor was. Maybe Barry ran into him at one point in his life and somehow redirected his path. We don't know what really happened, but something happened that changed the direction of his life, and that is a result of the timeline change when the Reverse Flash went back to 2000 and killed Barry's mother. Another character you'll notice that changes is in the season 1 episode Home Invasion. There's a character called Edward Rasmus. In the season 1 episode Home Invasion, the actor who plays Edward Rasmus appears as a police detective in the season 1 pilot of The Flash. So The Flash has an interesting way, or at least what the Reverse Flash did. He had a knack for turning people who were going down a direction of crime in their life, turn their life around by this change in the timeline and made them police officers. So it's really interesting that those were the changes made to these specific characters. Now I know that these actors were actually playing other characters. They're not known or not meant to be the same character going forward, but I think it's kind of fun to play with ideas like this in the series. It's really going to be fun as we get further into projects that had actors in other shows like Smallville, that also appeared in shows like Arrow and The Flash, shows that were years apart in production and also take place on other Earths and other universes. And you could just say that this is just the doppelganger effect, like it is with Brandon Routh playing the Atom and also playing Superman. So that's just one example of how we're going to go down this path as we go further on into the series. So those are just some fun tidbits on how we're going to go about this as we go further in this video. In this original timeline, yes, it included the entire events of season 1 of Arrow. Oliver Queen, of course, goes to the island of Lian Yu, and for 5 years he's missing, then returns to Starling City and begins his career as the vigilante then known as the Hood. Another thing you'll notice that will be changed from this timeline is the actress who plays Sarah Lance. Sarah is not played by Katie Lotz, who will be taking over the role in season 2. She's played by a different actress here in season 1, and this is another aspect, another effect of the timeline. Now, I don't know why the appearance of a character would change just because of a timeline change. I can't give you the reason for that. Maybe Sarah was later adopted. Maybe this is the original Sarah Lance, and maybe something unfortunate happened to this version of Sarah. Could be in the new timeline. Maybe she wasn't born. Maybe the Lances adopted another daughter after Laurel, adopted this baby and named her Sarah, and maybe that could be the origin of the new Sarah Lance. So we don't know what happened to the original Sarah Lance, but we know that she was lost within the changes made to the timeline. Other things that I think were changed is Oliver's time away when he was gone for that 5-year period. We do know that there was a point in that 5-year period where he did get off of Lian Yu. He says as such to John Diggle when he tells him about the meaning of the book of the list and how Robert Queen informed him on what all of this meant. And of course, Oliver does say that he didn't get that on the island. So he did leave the island for a bit, but in this original timeline, I'm thinking he was only gone for a brief period. Probably went to Russia rather than Hong Kong, but was probably employed by Argus at one point, by Amanda Waller. So some things may have changed. I don't think that that 5-year period was exactly the same as we do end up seeing it play out throughout the series, but in this original timeline, I think little things like that were different. Other things that were different was the Flash and how he became the Flash. It did result in the particle accelerator exploding, but the particle accelerator event didn't happen until 2020 in the original timeline, not in 2013 like it does when the Reverse Flash went back, became Harrison Wells, and then had to initiate the explosion so that Barry Allen could become the Flash. Then of course get the powers from the Flash so that he could boost himself, recharge the Speed Force within his system so that he could return back to his timeline. That's another event that did take place in this original timeline before these changes happened. Other characters that don't exist in this original timeline, and of course we find out don't exist on Earth 1, it's Supergirl, Superman. In this version of reality, either Krypton was never destroyed, or Kal-El and Kara Zor-El never made it to Earth, or if they did, they never became the characters of Superman and Supergirl. It could be that something unfortunate happened to these characters, or they just never met their full potential. But regardless, these characters never appear in either the original timeline or later on Earth 1. Characters like Batman probably did exist, but as we learn throughout the rest of this series, as we get further on into the Arrowverse in this timeline, Batman was more of a secluded character, didn't really team up with people, and of course went missing later on in his life. In this original timeline, timeline, I do believe that characters like Martin Stein and Ronnie Raymond did become Firestorm. Of course, we know that Barry Allen does eventually become the Flash. Ia Barthon does become Reverse Flash much later. In season 1 of the Flash, Reverse Flash tells Oliver Queen that he lives to be 86 years old. I do believe that this is how old he was meant to live in the original timeline before events later change. Of course, we'll see how this all will eventually play out in the crossover event Crisis on Infinite Earths. At that point, many things had changed. Many events had deviated from that original timeline, but in the original timeline, Oliver Queen was meant to live to the age of 86. Was he the Arrow for the entire course of his life? We don't know how that really played out. Maybe he put the mantle away, or maybe it was like a Dark Knight Returns kind of event for Oliver Queen on this timeline, and he put the mantle back on, lived out the rest of his days as the Arrow, the Hood, or the Green Arrow. Another thing to take note of is that at a dinner party, Oliver Queen and Malcolm Merlyn have this interaction, and Malcolm Merlyn suggests that the Hood should take on a new name of the Green Arrow.
I think the Vigilante needs a better code name than the Hood, or the Hood guy.
How about Green Arrow?
Lame.
So I'm thinking in this original timeline, he doesn't take on the mantle of the Green Arrow ever and remained as the Vigilante. The Hood probably then did take on the mantle of the Arrow. So I do believe that he did live out the rest of his time as a Vigilante as the Arrow and not necessarily as the Green Arrow. I can't really tell you how the rest of this original timeline was supposed to be. We don't really get a look at how this was all supposed to play out as we get further on into shows like Arrow and The Flash. By the time we get to The Flash, we've really deviated from where that original timeline was, but I do believe that season 1 of Arrow does exist within this original timeline, and this is the clearest and best look we've got at this piece in this period of the DC Universe. So now we'll get into season 1 of Arrow. What are the major events? What are the major characters that we're dealing with throughout the course of the show? To start, Oliver Queen went missing 5 years ago. In the year 2007, he went missing on his family's yacht, the Queen's Gambit, believed to be dead, but was actually believed to have survived for 5 years on the island of Lian-Yu in the North China Sea. In this 5-year period, Oliver Queen interacted with characters like Slade Wilson, Shadow, her father Yao Fei, and Edward Fires. At the beginning of this period of his life, Oliver's main goal is just to get back home. It should also be noted that when Oliver Queen got on the Queen's Gambit, at the time he was dating his girlfriend Laura Lance, but cheated on her with her own sister Sarah Lance, bringing Sarah on the Queen's Gambit. It was believed that Sarah Lance died at sea when the Queen's Gambit went down. And I believe in the original timeline, Sarah Lance actually was killed and was lost at sea. So when you see Oliver dealing with all these emotions, with Laurel and Quentin dealing with all these emotions, in that one episode when they think that Sarah might be alive and they find out later that this was just another girl, in this picture that Laurel's mother found, I do believe that in this original timeline, Sarah Lance actually did die on the Queen's Gambit. So that would definitely change the second year of Oliver's time away while he was on Lian-Yu, and probably affected how Slade Wilson would have been, maybe resulting in him not taking on the Mirakuru serum. It could be that he either died on Lian-Yu or never turned on Oliver, and both remained allies. It's hard to tell. Now, there is that shot of the mask with the arrow put in it. We do see that in the opening scenes, the opening shots of the first episode. So something did happen. That could be the mask of Bill Wintergreen, as we learn later on in the series, was Slade Wilson's partner. So certain events could have happened. Certain events could have been different. And maybe Slade Wilson in this original timeline never turned on Oliver in the first place. As Oliver goes through this first year of his life on Lian-Yu, he learns to become less selfish, relies on his friends rather than himself, thinks about others over himself, sacrifices his escape from Lian-Yu in order to stop Edward Fires and his evil machinations. So those would have been the events of Oliver's time on the island. Then we'll flash forward 5 years to Oliver escaping Lian-Yu, getting off of Lian-Yu. And again, I believe that Oliver did leave the island. We know that he did leave the island, but I don't believe he left it twice like he does later in the events of the show. I believe he just went to either Hong Kong or Russia, probably went to Russia, or he went to both, but it was just within the span of 1 year rather than 2. But then, of course, did make it back to Lian-Yu and escaped. I also believe that that look that he has is not this disguise that he puts on at the end of season 5, but that's actually his hair grown out for having lived on that island for so long without manicuring his appearance. So 5 years after the Queen's Gambit sank, billionaire Oliver Queen is rescued from the remote island of Lian-Yu.
The Starling City resident was found by fishermen in the North China Sea 5 days ago.
Everyone believes he survived alone, but Oliver returns as a completely different man.
For 5 years, I was stranded on an island with only one goal: survive.
Before he was lost on the island 5 years ago, he was a party boy. He was always getting into so much trouble. Now he's a completely different person, totally changed by the experiences he went through on this 5-year period. Back in Starling City, he reunites with his mother Moira Queen, his sister Thea Queen, his best friend Tommy Merlyn, and his former girlfriend Laura Lance, who still blames him for Sarah's death. Oliver secretly begins hunting corrupt businessmen using a notebook left by his father as the hooded vigilante known only as the Hood.
To do this, I must become someone else. I must become something else.
He initially believes his mission is to eliminate everyone responsible for destroying the city.
Now I will fulfill my father's dying wish. Use the list of names he left me and bring down those who are poisoning my city.
He was given this list from his father, and it details specific people who have been aiding in the corruption and the downfall of Starling City, been preying on the weak and propping themselves up. In Robert Queen's final moments, before he sacrifices himself for Oliver, he tells Oliver to right his wrongs.
Take it home. Right my wrongs. No!
Do better than him and go make Starling City the place it always should have been. As we get further on into the show, Oliver realizes that simply crossing names off his father's list isn't enough. Encouraged by his bodyguard, John Diggle, he begins protecting innocent people as well. Of course, it is noted that John Diggle is actually the Green Lantern, John Stewart. Of course, in this timeline, in the course of the show, he's going by the name of John Diggle, as that was the name of his biological father. He was adopted later by his stepfather, who does carry the last name of Stewart. So it's an indication that John Stewart, in most realities, took the name of his stepfather rather than his biological father, but this is a case of where John Stewart actually took the name of his biological father, that name being Diggle. So he's encouraged by John Diggle and begins protecting innocent people as well, going outside of those names on the list, not just crossing these names off, but actually acting as a true hero. Several allies and enemies begin to emerge throughout the course of this first year. Diggle becomes Oliver's trusted partner. Only 3 episodes in, Oliver reveals his identity to him. Felicity Smoke unknowingly helps investigate suspicious financial transactions for Oliver. For the first half of season 1, Felicity is unknowingly helping Oliver in his adventures as the Hood. It isn't until the episode The Odyssey where Oliver reveals his secret identity to Felicity. Oliver also meets Helena Bertinelli, going by the alias The Huntress, who mirrors his quest for revenge, but she unfortunately embraces murder completely. Oliver does kill, but uses that as a last resort, not part of his opening act. Oliver learns that revenge without restraint does create monsters. Near Christmas, a mysterious archer in black effortlessly defeats Oliver. This Dark Archer is the first opponent who completely outclasses him. At the time, it is believed that this archer is employed by whoever created the list. The Hood is getting too close to the members of the list and is getting too close to figuring out what they're actually up to in this mission of the undertaking. After a period of recovery after suffering a major defeat by the Dark Archer, Oliver begins uncovering a larger conspiracy. His mother, Moira Queen, is secretly involved with the dangerous conspirators. Walter Steele, Moira's now husband and CEO of Queen Consolidated, investigates missing company funds and as a result also gets too close to the plans for the undertaking and is taken captive. Felicity officially joins Oliver and Diggle, forming the show's original Team Arrow. Throughout the series, Detective Quentin Lance becomes obsessed with hunting down the Hood and bringing him in. Tommy and Laurel grow closer while Oliver struggles to let go of his past. And it should be noted that at the mid-season finale, it is revealed that the Dark Archer is in fact Tommy's father, Malcolm Merlin, who we reveal is the architect of the undertaking. Everything builds towards Malcolm's master plan. As it is revealed, years earlier, Malcolm's wife was murdered in the Glades, convincing him that this district of Starling City had become beyond saving. His solution is horrifying. The original conspirators, which did include Robert Queen, at first they had altruistic motives. They were trying to buy up properties within the Glades and then trying to reestablish them, reform them, and make them a better place of living. But after this event, Malcolm believes that everyone within the Glades should perish and every structure within the Glades should be brought down to the foundation so that they can go in and rebuild. To do this, Malcolm's plan is to use an earthquake machine to take down this section of the city. Oliver learns that Robert did in fact help finance the project of the undertaking, learns that Moira has been forced into helping Malcolm.
Moira Queen, you have failed this city.
And that Malcolm was responsible for putting a bomb on the Queen's Gambit. It was believed that the Queen's Gambit went down in a terrible storm, but it is later revealed that Malcolm had people place a bomb on the Queen's Gambit, created an explosion causing the Queen's Gambit to sink. Throughout the show, Tommy learns that Oliver is the Hood and feels deeply betrayed that his best friend wouldn't reveal his greatest secret to him. Despite stopping one earthquake device in the finale, Malcolm had a backup plan. He had a second earthquake device ready to go. So even as it seems that our heroes are about to defeat Malcolm and save the day, they actually end up losing. They're too late to stop Malcolm's plans, and the Glades are devastated by this horrifying destruction. I also believe that in this original timeline, Malcolm Merlin truly did die and does not return like he does later in the show. Many die. Oliver completely fails to save the city. And this is what I really loved about the finale. It was so shocking. You don't expect your heroes to just lose right out the gate. And in Oliver's first year, it shows that even our heroes, even though that they can do so much and so many great things, it really kept the show realistic, showing that even our greatest heroes can fail. And so that's what I really appreciated by this interpretation, this presentation of of the Arrow. During the destruction, Tommy does rescue Laurel out of the CNRI facilities, but unfortunately Tommy succumbs to some major injuries. The building falls on top of him, and it's too late for anybody to get to him. Oliver does find him right before he passes. Tommy forgives him for not telling him the truth. However, Oliver does lie to Tommy, saying that he didn't kill his father, even though Oliver did in fact bring about his demise. Tommy's death changes Oliver forever. I believe that after this, the events of season 2 would have played out very similar. Again, I don't think that Slade Wilson actually took on the role that he did in season 2, so something else would have to have happened, but I do believe that this did shake Oliver. This event did shake Oliver, and he did take on the name of the Arrow, realizing that killing isn't enough and that he must become a true hero to save lives rather than simply punishing criminals. That's the brief overview of season 1 of Arrow. The flashbacks of the show take place between 2007 and 2008. The present day of the show takes place between 2012 and 2013. And this is the only project within all these that I'm about to show you that take place on a timeline that isn't altered by time travel or a multiverse. It truly does stand on its own. So notable characters to remember throughout this first chapter are Oliver Queen, known as the Hood, Robert Queen, Moira Queen, Thea Queen, Walter Steele, Laura Lance, Sarah Lance, Quentin Lance, Laurel's mother, Dinah Lance, Roy Harper, Tommy Merlin, Malcolm Merlin, also known as the Dark Archer, Slade Wilson, Billy Wintergreen, Yao Fei, Shadow, Edward Fires, John Diggle, or John Stewart, Lila Michaels, aka Harbinger. Take note of the name Harbinger for later. That will be very important as we go further on into the series. Felicity Smoke, Helena Bertinelli, also known as the Huntress, Deadshot, also known as Floyd Lawton, Chen Na Wei, the Royal Flush Gang, Count Vertigo, Firefly, also known as Garfield Lynns, the Dodger, Carly Diggle, and McKenna Hall. Notable character deaths to take account of in this season are, of course, Sarah Lance, Robert Queen, Yao Fei, Edward Fires, Firefly, Billy Wintergreen, and yes, Malcolm Merlin. So thanks for sticking with me on this first chapter of the DCU. This will be a regular series on the channel as I chronicle how all of these projects will lead up to the current DCU that we're now experiencing with movies like Superman and Supergirl, the current stage of the DCU, how all these projects relate to each other and how it all builds to one climactic event, to the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover and beyond. So I'm really excited to do this project. I hope you're on board with me as we get into this. Of course, as we go further on into each video and each chapter, it's just going to get more and more chaotic as more projects get included, like The Flash, Black Lightning, Supergirl, Legends of Tomorrow, all that stuff. I can't wait to do that. And it's not just the Arrowverse. There's going to be even more. There's going to be Smallville. There's going to be the Keaton Batman film, Superman Returns with Brandon Routh. It's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of crazy stuff, and I can't wait to go further on into the series, and I hope you're excited for the series as well. Can't wait to bring you more of it. So go down in the comment section, let me know what you thought of this first video. Did you like it? Did you like what I talked about? Did you like the ideas that I brought forth here? Do you think this was an interesting topic to discuss on the channel? Go down in the comment section and let me know all of your thoughts. I'd love to hear from you. Before you go, remember to hit that like button, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to get notified when new videos go live to this channel. You guys do that, it always helps me out, and I greatly appreciate it. Hope you all have an awesome and a fantastic day, and I'll see you in the next video.